Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, my Q&A video, and this is one I've been putting together for the last week, and I just haven't had a lot of free time to finish this one off, and the beginning and the end are kind of the last two things I'm recording here. But I've recorded a lot of just Q&A stuff and things my viewers wanted to know about, and I tried to put them all in one video, and pretty much just looking at a question and answering it off the top of my head, not really looking into a lot of stuff and a lot of general answers, kind of. And then some in-depth look on Google Earth and a few other things here. Those of you new to my channel, I upload videos on a lot of different aspects of history. My Ancient America series, a lot of people are liking that one just because they're learning a lot of new information. And I think it's important to be kind of thorough. But thorough in that one, well, that's becoming a lot bigger task than I originally anticipated. I would like to thank all of those who sent me questions on email and Facebook. And I didn't even get to all the questions I wanted to, just because I didn't want to make this one too much over an hour video. Now, Atlantis is one of the things I'm going to talk about, and just give you some honest opinions about some videos I've seen and videos I've seen a long time ago. And I'm going to show what I think is the best theory as to where, if a place called Atlantis was located, where it actually was. I think Plato named Atlantis just because the one world ocean was named the Atlantic, and he just gave it the term Atlantis because it was an island civilization. Was there one main capital of Atlantis? Well, that's all up for individual interpretation of the text, I guess. Now, it's pretty clear to me that Plato added a lot. He added a moralistic tale to this original story he heard, and personally, the story goes that Plato heard this from Solon, but personally, I think Plato got a lot of his knowledge about Atlantis when he was initiated in the Great Pyramid. But it seems pretty clear to me that Plato got initiated into the Great Pyramid a little under 2,500 years ago, and I think some of this knowledge about this deep history of where Egypt came from, he attained that knowledge when he was initiated into the mystery schools. That's the way it appears to me. And I'm going to make a video about this down the line because this totally relates to something I have talked about before. And I think it's something very, very important because it relates to the deepest history of what we know about our planet. And I'm going to show a video that was done about 5 years ago that I think is the best theory on where a capital may have been. And I have never gone down that road because I think it's more important just to establish that there was a civilization maybe 12,000 years ago. The location of it isn't so important to me because that's super hard to do, and I know Matt at Ancient Architects made a video, and I'll give him credit. That's not easy to do, where you can put together a plausible theory on where Atlantis is, but one thing is very clear to me. It was an island lost today. But first, there are just a couple of things I want to mention. You can keep on sending me questions on Facebook and email because I'm going to make another Q&A video down the line. I can cover a lot of topics in these videos. I'd also like to thank you people for the nice comments on some of my music videos. And I know Seth and Dendon, of those people, have read those comments and appreciate them a lot. And I've had some comments and a couple messages to me sent saying, you know what, some of your comments are a little too opinionated, they're a little on the rude side, they're a little too critical, you're kind of hurting your brand. Really? My brand? What brand do I have? I've never monetized a video, I don't have a book, I don't have a website. I'm just an individual guy with opinions and a stupid YouTube channel name. That is my brand, my opinion. I've never been in this for the money, I just want to figure out what the hell happened on this planet. I've had questions on other channels, what do you like to watch? And that is really getting limited these days, and there's only a few channels I watch. Now, if I leave a negative comment on a video, well, at least I'm watching that channel. I think their videos are worth watching. And some channels out there are business-based channels. Their number one goal is views. And that's all right because people still learn a lot, and especially people who are new to the ancient history thing, at least they get to view some different opinions on history. But the channels I like to watch, and the ones that I'm really focusing on these days, are the ones that bring me new information, something I have never heard before, something I can't find somewhere else, something new brought to the table. Some channels out there, I'm still waiting for those videos. It's perfectly okay to like a video, even though you don't agree with the basic premise. You can learn a lot from a video and still filter out information that you don't find acceptable. Think for yourself. Just take everything you've heard about a site and form your own opinion. That's what we don't have enough of, people forming their own opinions. People just looking to certain channels and just kissing their ass and saying, oh, thanks for bringing us this truth, without looking into it. Come on, people. It's not that hard to research. Now, the best example I can give in my own research is Zacharias Sitchin. When I really looked into his Nibiru and the gold and the Anunnaki, after I read 3 of his books, I thought that was a cool theory, and this is really at the beginning of my research, and I was totally open to the ancient alien thing, but then I looked at it, and I totally don't agree with some of the things he wrote. But then on the other hand, some of the things he wrote I thought were highly interesting and highly educational, and his little bit on Tiwanaku in the book The Lost Realms is probably one of the theories of what that site actually was for. So just take in all you can and then form your own opinion. And the channels that are out there and really digging deep and bringing new stuff forward, I really respect those, and those are the ones I'm really paying attention to. The ones who just do stories on ancient history, that's just fine. But I'm really looking for the people who are bringing new information forward. And when I look at YouTube channels today, when they bring you a site and they fail to mention things about it just to make it more interesting, and the ones who are just going for their views, well, that is just the way it is on YouTube. Any history video I respect and I like, just because they're talking about ancient history. I might not agree with it, but the ones I am focusing on today are the ones who are bringing forward new research. And I think it's important for the people who put out answers to the biggest mysteries to back up what they are putting out in a debate. I know I always will. That's what my viewers would expect and hope for. Now, I have always mentioned other channels and tried to steer you people to some good information, and there are a few channels that I want to mention here before I get started on my questions. Now, the first one I want to talk about is Florida Trailblazer here. He has over 4,000 subs, and he visits a lot of Indian mound sites in Florida, places that are just lost and forgotten, and takes you right to them. And I think he makes some great videos. He also visits some other kind of lost, forgotten sites that he finds in the swamplands of Florida, and I think he has a great channel. So you people who are interested in that Ancient America series and some mounds here, and some art, he finds artifacts and stuff, I think this is a great channel. Now, a lot of you have given me questions on the Carolina Bays, and I just want to steer you people, in case you don't know about it, to Antonio Zamora's channel. He pretty much has his channel dedicated to the Carolina Bays. I think his videos are excellent. He has 675 subscribers, and I think he should have a lot more, and I hope a lot of you subscribe to his channel, because you're going to get some great information. But if you're interested in the events at the end of the last ice age, he has some great videos, some great research here. This is stuff that is new to me, and I'm learning a lot watching his videos. He has one video here exploring the Carolina Bays with Graham Hancock even. So he is well respected, and I can't recommend this channel highly enough. I think this is fascinating research on something that we just have no idea what actually happened, and his research is starting to pull some of that out. Another channel I want to mention is this, Ancient History Criticism. Andrew has been a subscriber of mine and left good comments, and he is just starting a channel, and I always respect somebody who has the guts to start a channel and start talking about this publicly, because, man, I remember 7 years ago, and it was my 7th anniversary 2 days ago on YouTube, but I remember how hard it was at the beginning to do this, and it was just something that I thought I would make a few videos and see if people actually listened. But Andrew here, he has started making some videos, Ancient History Criticisms. I will leave the link below, but he seems to have a good handle on the ancient past. And the last channel I want to talk about here just briefly is Dani 702. She makes some videos down on the Vegas Strip. I know I have a lot of subs here in Vegas, and people who like Las Vegas, so I will leave the link below. But I thought, maybe I'll meet her someday down on the Strip when she's doing one of her videos. And then about a week ago, I went across to the grocery store right after I woke up, and I met her right when I walked into the door. Surprise, we had a nice little chat. She still was friendly to me, even though she was seeing me about 10 minutes after I woke up. That had to be frightening. But Dani, it was nice meeting you, and I will leave the link to her channel below. The first subject I'm going to talk about is Atlantis. That is the question I have received the most. Matt at Ancient Architects did a video here a little while ago, and I thought it was very good. I thought it was very interesting, and just to come up with a semi-plausible theory about Atlantis, I think is great work. I have never done it. It's very hard to do. For one thing, we don't even know Atlantis existed. We don't know what Plato was talking about. We can't even locate cities that come from 3,000 years ago that we know existed, so I have never gone the route of trying to locate Atlantis, but Matt's video I thought was very good. And of course, a lot of you watch Jimmy's video on the Eye of the Sahara. And here is a video from 2015, and this is when I first looked into the Eye of the Sahara theory, and I looked into it back then, and my channel was all about possibilities, and I never talked about it because I didn't think it was a possibility at all, and that's just my honest opinion. But I thought Jimmy's Eye of the Sahara video was one of the better Atlantis videos. You know, had a lot of great information. And I'll always appreciate Jimmy from sending a whole bunch of subscribers my way when he mentioned my channel about a little over a year ago. Those who have subbed me for a long time know that I am always honest. I will rip my own channel, and I have changed my opinions on things and said what I've said in the past is wrong. So I will always be honest, and I don't think Jimmy would expect me to be anything different. Now, I try to concentrate if there was actually an ancient civilization 12,000 years ago, and the people who have gone and tried to locate it, well, I respect that. Not easy to do, but let's just go over to Google Earth and talk about a few possibilities. But when talking about an ancient civilization that went underwater and possibilities where they might have existed, I think you have to go down here to the Bahamas. I'm just going to mention about 5 places that I think it's a possibility. But maybe down here, and now this yellow mark is the Bimini Road, underwater ruins. It appears to be, but there's some controversy about that. But this area here, this would have been a harbor before sea levels rose, or a giant harbor here. And there appears to be water that came off of it at one time that carved this valley in the coastal plain here. But this is just one site, and we got ancient ruins underwater, it appears, the Bimini Road. But that would have to be one site, but I think Atlantis was most likely an island. And remember, I think Plato's general term of Atlantis is just the naming of him for an island civilization, because the ocean, the one world ocean, was called the Atlantic. But let's just look at a couple other possibilities. Now, we are going down to Bermuda. What did this look like before sea levels rose? Obviously a large flat plain, and the way it appears in elevation here, there would have been an ancient harbor. Appears we have circular type ridges here, but what this would have looked like, who knows? The world changed literally 12,000 years ago. This is what we have today. Back then, there would have been other islands here, mountains, and let me just give you a look underwater, what this looks like around Bermuda. I did this video maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Now, if you listen to Randall Carlson, when we lost the ice sheets in North America, this might have caused this area of the Atlantic to sink a little bit, or to go down. When one area, the land goes up, and that's what it would have done in this area, because you just had the tremendous weight of the ice packs. But this land would have gone up, and he theorizes this would have gone down a little, so this has to be considered as a possibility. And we got, of course, the Azores out here. So if a place called Atlantis actually existed, this place would have to be considered. And I'm going to get back to one other place here besides the Azores, but the Azores have to be considered. So did this landmass actually go down at the end of the last ice age? And if you just look here, there are some kind of strange features here. But what did this area look like? Was there a civilization living out here about 11,000 to 12,000 years ago that we have lost track of? Well, that's a possibility. And also down here off the coast, we have the Canary Islands, and these have to be considered. What did these look like at the end of the last ice age? Still above water today, and that is a slight possibility. The Plato's pretty clear. It's an island, maybe the Cape Verde Islands. I guess that would have to be another contender, and I like where these are located. And also at the Temple of Edfu in Egypt, there is tales about where the people who started the Egyptian civilization, where they came from. It's an island out in the sea that is lost today. So the Cape Verde Islands have to be a contender too. But those are just a look at a few places. Now, all the Atlantis research I have seen lately, and I know a lot of you watched Jimmy's Eye of the Sahara video, and Mud Fossils, I think that's the name of his channel, but he did a video series on this a couple years ago, and I looked into the possibility of this being Atlantis, and back then, quite honestly, I didn't even think it was a possibility, so I never made a video or talked about it. But that is one cool structure. Jimmy's video on Atlantis was packed with great information, and I just disagree with it. And I disagree with the whole theory that Atlantis is on the continent of Africa, because that just doesn't make sense with what is written. But if it was on the coast of Africa, there is actually one place that is a better theory, and it's right up here. And let me just show you what it looks like. If we're talking about circular structures that are possibilities for Atlantis, even though I don't agree it was on the coast of Africa, here is a circular structure in southern Morocco, and this place actually has ancient ruins on it. And here are just some of the pics coming from the circular structure, and here there's some stonework. And if we go down here, there's pottery found, evidence of an ancient civilization, and there's actually caves and what they describe as docks cut into the rockwork here. But I will leave a link for this below. Do I think this was Atlantis? Well, I think this is a lot better theory than the Eye of the Sahara. Matt did a video I thought was very good. It's very hard to come up with a theory that makes sense as far as a lost island that we don't even know was an actual place. But I know some of you remember Danny Wilten's video, and he did a video on this place here, and I know it got viewed a lot, and Danny doesn't make videos anymore on YouTube. And I'm going to play just a clip from a video I found that is still out there that was one of his subscribers uploaded. But this place here, the Seaward Seamounts, I think this is the best video I've seen on a possibility for Atlantis. And I'm just going to play a little bit from that video right now. And if you guys want Danny back on YouTube, maybe you can leave some comments here on this video. But Danny did excellent work. And when I was first on YouTube, and by the way, yesterday was my 7th anniversary on YouTube. 7 years, that's pretty hard to believe, but when I first went on YouTube and started watching videos, Danny's videos were some of the ones I watched and kind of said, maybe I could do this. So But I'm going to play a clip from a follow-up video Dani did to his Atlantis video, because I don't think that Atlantis video exists anymore. But I don't think I have seen a better theory as to where this place, if it did exist, where it existed, and it was this place right here. And there are even references to it. And he did a video where this even fits on the Karl Monk line of thought. But let me just play that clip for you right now.
Hey everybody, I wanted to show you an update that I have for the Atlantis area. Just to kind of show you how they did this map. I reconstructed it for you. If you notice right down here, we have the whole area on Google Earth that I've basically cut out a rectangle and put it in here. And in order to show Atlantis, what they actually did when we can reconstruct this map is they just took out the extra blue area, because what they wanted to show you was they wanted to show you the land masses on either side. So, and then they blew up the center island here so that you could actually see more detail on the destination. That's the way they did maps a long time ago in the olden times. They took the destination that you see right here and they blew it up in order for you to be able to see the detail behind it. Otherwise, if you were to look at something like this, it wouldn't do you any good if it was your destination. But when we take a look right here, we can see that Africa and Spain that we see right here, and we follow our eyes right across, we have this same area right here, which is America. And so when we scrunch all this up and we take out all the extra Atlantic Ocean, we get something that is very, very similar, especially when we blow up Atlantis a little bit here in the center, which is exactly what they did. Now, as far as the dimensions goes, it says the Egyptians, Plato asserted, described Atlantis as an island comprising mostly mountains in the northern positions along the shore and encompassing a great plain of an oblong shape in the south, extending in one direction, 3,000 stadia, about 555 kilometers or 345 miles. This is the oblong shape in the south that we're looking at right here. This is south and this is north. Notice how the arrow is pointed the opposite direction you would normally see it, because we're actually looking at south being in the upper portion right here. So this is the oblong shape in the south that they're describing, and as you notice, it's a match to what we see here in the map. If we go from the edge of this and we go 345 miles over, which is what's described right here, we come to the very edge of what we see here, which is this city grid that Google kind of took off a while back. They've actually released news on it, but we can enhance that and you can see the actual city grid. So if we go from the edge of that mountain 345 miles over, we come just to the edge of this city grid that we see right here. In the opposite direction, we go 230 miles, because it says, but across the center inland, it was 2,000 stadia, 370 kilometers, about 230 miles. And so if we go from the very top of this southern island right here and go all the way to 230 miles, right here, just at the edge, is, guess what they call it? They call it Plato's Seamount. And it's located in some mountains that you hit right when you get to this area right here. So this square area that you see right here is what's being described in this map. Now, Atlantis may actually cover a larger area, but as far as the map that we see here inside Mundi Subterranea and what was provided to us by Athanasius Kircher, this map was back in the 1600s. If you go to Wikipedia, if you take a look at the maps that Klaus Doner shows us, this is the map that's pretty much the most intact that we have so far. And so what I wanted to do was to present to you the way this map looks. When you scrunch everything else up and you blow up the center area, you're looking at the same thing. Once again, they did this in order to show the land masses on either side. They wanted to show you that Africa and Spain were on one side, and on the other side America was there. And they also wanted to show you the destination and the shape of this island, which is what we're seeing right here. And so when we take a look at it, if we take this extra ocean out right here, this is what we get. North and south are facing the proper direction. This is the same longitude as the Great Pyramids. This is also where Tikal Temple 2 points to. There's all these other variables that you'll see in the video response area, where I'm going to leave a video that I made previously. Didn't have this map in there that I created for you this time because I wanted you to see this. But this map that you see right here corresponds to what you're seeing right here. It corresponds to this island right here. Now, there are obviously some speculations as to some other areas of Atlantis that may be so. But as far as what this map is actually pointing to, it's actually pointing to this area right here. And we have all of these different pyramid codes and so forth to prove that. So I'll leave a response in the video response area for the previous video I made that actually made news on this Atlantis area. And for you who have not seen that this discovery of Atlantis yet, I think that it's very exciting, and I wanted to put this out there for you guys. Y'all take care. I'll talk to you soon.
So I think Dani's video by far is the best theory for where a possible location for Atlantis was. There are other sites such as Matt's video that I thought were excellent just because they're plausible. And Jimmy's video, Eye of the Sahara, thought it was an excellent video. But in my opinion, with all I've read about Plato, there's no way in heck this can be Atlantis. I don't think it was on the continent of Africa. And there is actually a circular type ruin right on the coast that would fit in every way a lot better than this video. I thought it was an excellent video, but in no way, shape, or form this was Atlantis. Now, I've had more than a few questions on the mystery walls of California. These are located in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I did video here a couple years ago, and then one, I think 3 years ago on this. One, I talked about it. Another one, I just showed a lot on Google Earth here. But these stretch for dozens of miles through the hills above the Bay Area, and people wanted to know where the location for these was, or where they could find these if they wanted to go for a hike. And since I go for dozens of miles, there's really a lot of areas, and I will leave the link for this video below, and maybe you can get a good idea just from what I show on Google Earth. I will try to leave a couple links in the description, and any of you familiar with these, please leave a comment on where a good area is to get out and look at some of these walls. But let's just go over to Google Earth. Go down to, this is Ed Levin County Park right here. And then this is the Calaveras Reservoir, and right up in an area between, looks like there's a golf course in the Ed Levin County Park here. But right between the reservoir and the county park, there is a good area where the wall is above ground and still looking pretty good here. And we really have no answer who built these massive walls that go for a long, long way. But I would encourage this area just because there are other stone ruins up here. And you see this area here, it looks like, now obviously this wasn't a wall. This looks like maybe it was some sort of structure or temple or something up here. But this looks like it had intent by the builders. And right over here you see some other things, and it looks like the earth is shaped here, and this looks like maybe the highest elevation in the nearby area. But I will leave a location as far as the Google Earth location. But once again, this is right up from Ed Levin County Park here. I think that is the name of it, Regional Park. If I was in the San Francisco Bay Area and wanted to check out these walls, that's probably the first place I would go, between Ed Levin County Park and the Calaveras Reservoir. Right up in this area, and I will try to leave a general Google Earth location. But I think these walls are fascinating just because they go for such a long way. How ancient they are, well, that is somewhat of a mystery. The man hours and who built them, I think that is a great mystery. Here's a question. Are we being intentionally lied to about our ancient past? And I don't think it's so much we're being lied to. I just think every region of the earth kind of has their own spin on things. And I think we are just realizing how deep our past goes. And really, the last 30 years pretty much has been this new age of modern research. And I just don't think a lot is known, really known. A few people are bringing out little bits and pieces out of our ancient past. But really, I think today, this era, the last maybe quarter century has really been a new era in finding out what exactly went on. Just because of all the information available to people now, this is like no period in history so far. A guy like me can just sit on his couch, go visit places, and read about every ancient thing that was ever written. But today, I think this is the dawn of a whole new era where we are going to unlock a lot of true mysteries about our past, and the really great mysteries, and people who say, well, we'll never know. Well, that crap doesn't fly on this channel. And I think in the next 25 years, we are going to be totally amazed at what we find out about our ancient past. We are unlocking things every day. So I don't think it's so much that we are being lied to. I just think we're just discovering it now in this new era where we have technology, we have all the information at our fingertips. New ways of discovery are being invented almost every day. So this era is going to totally rewrite history, and I'm just glad to be a little tiny part of it. But just think how far we've come in the past 25 years about what we know about our past. 30 years ago, if you were talking about a temple 12,000 years old with standing monoliths and intricate designs carved on them that told a story, it would kind of be scoffed at. Today, Göbekli Tepe is an accepted place of history. And are we being lied to? Well, certain places, stories of the past are certainly omitted. And in places like Egypt, the narrative is just written to fit the national story, national pride, money. There are a whole different slew of reasons why history is written the way it is. Religious reasons. These borders on these countries is really what prevents us from getting the true story. If we were just getting the human story instead of regional interpretations of history, we would know a lot more about our past, but that's just the way it is. And in certain places, the story is omitted from the past. Is that any better or worse than just lying about the past? Is it the same? Well, that's all up for individual viewpoints, I guess. But when you have the story, an incredible story just omitted from a past, I think that is pretty sad for people looking for what actually happened and the truth on this planet. I've had a couple questions and comments saying you're doing a series on ancient America. Well, how about Canada? A lot of ruins up here, and it's part of America. How come you haven't included that? Well, those were excellent comments and questions. And those of you in Canada, I'm going to be featuring a few different sites in Canada. A few different cultures are going to be talked about. But there are some fascinating ancient ruins. And those of you who have watched my Ancient America series, I like getting the human story involved in some of these places and what these local communities have gone through. Well, I've got a mound site coming up that is really going to be in line with some of those videos I did on the Ancient America sites that are forgotten, lost, disrespected, forgotten. Now, I've had 2 or 3 questions on Fort Mountain, Georgia. We're going to go down and take a look. And we also got some film footage of this place from a subscriber, and I'm going to show that here, just a brief peek. Now, this is called Fort Mountain, Georgia, and I don't think we really have a good answer here for this. But there are stone walls up in here that go for over 800 feet. You can see them on Google Earth, and you can make them out. And there's also other walls in this area. If you really look around, they're pretty easy to see, but what exactly is this? I have no idea. But there are long stone walls in this area, and we'll go down and look at one of them down here. But this is pretty easy to make out on Google Earth. But it looks like right down here by the road, there starts one. You can see it comes up here, and that's a really weird design for a huge stone wall. And it comes down here. But you can trace this through the woods here, and we'll get a look at it in a second, but I just want to show you this one area here. You can see, let me zoom in a little closer. Comes up right here, comes out, up, down, and then up here. And I'm wondering if these stone walls weren't meant to represent something. This almost looks like a couple of birds right here, but that is just wild speculation. And I have not looked into this site, and I would appreciate any theories. Is there one theory that is better than another, or one that is more accepted? I have no idea. But my intuition says this is a pretty mysterious site, and I'm looking forward to looking into this one. Now let's just take a peek from a brief video, and a few pics that a subscriber sent in. Now I'd like to thank subscriber Rebecca for sending this in. A few pics and a brief video, but here you see a portion of the wall. She sent one pic here with some information. It says, prehistoric and historic stone structures dot the landscape of the southeast. Many of these features have been categorized as piles, cairns, mounds, walls, enclosures, and effigies. The stone wall at Fort Mountain, which zigzags below its summit, is one of the best examples in Georgia of a piled rock feature. Archaeology has shown that the architects of these structures are Native Americans, more likely from the woodland period. However, the exact purpose of the walls and the tribe who built them remain a mystery, a legacy shrouded in legend and lore. And really, they don't really know who built these walls, and there is only some mysterious legends. It says, the Moon-Eyed People. The earliest recorded mention of the Moon-Eyed People in Cherokee legend appears in Benjamin Smith Barton's New Views of the Origin of the Tribes and Nations of America, 1797. The Cherokee tell us that when they first arrived in the country which they inhabit, they found it possessed by certain moon-eyed people who could not see in the daytime. In some accounts of the legend, the moon-eyed appeared as bearded, fair-skinned race with blonde hair and blue eyes. Other tales recount them as a nocturnal people who could see in the dark but were nearly blind in the daylight, and a few tales describe them as albinos. The origin of the stone wall in Cherokee legend have two primary versions. Version 1, the Moon-Eyed built the wall in defense of an ongoing war with the Cherokee Indians. The Cherokees, knowing that the Moon-Eyed were unable to see during certain phases of the moon, attacked under a full moon. This blinded the Moon-Eyed people and allowed the Cherokees to drive them from their homes and into hiding underground. In version 2, the Creek Indians were the ones who had an ongoing war with the Moon-Eyed and drove them into hiding. But here is part of the wall where it makes a zigzag, and I don't think we know who built these. I really don't. But here you see another section of it, and this would have taken a tremendous amount of man-hours to build this wall that stretches for a long, long way. But I want to thank Rebecca for sending in these pics and the brief video, because this is a site I am totally unfamiliar with, and it looks fascinating.
This is absolutely amazing. There's this 845-foot-long wall in the middle of the mountains at Fort Mountain that allegedly was built by the Cherokee to protect them against some indigenous race of blonde-haired, blue-eyed peoples that couldn't see during the day.
Now, I have had questions from people around the Boston area and the New England area about stone ruins. I just want to show you one area here near Boston. This is just southeast of Newton and just west of Brookline, I think it is. But there is one area here near Hammond Pond and just east of Crystal Lake here. But this area, not much built up on here, and it looks like there's ridges that come up here. But if you look in here, and I have read some reports on a few websites of some stone ruins in this area, and if you zoom in on Google Earth, you can see a few of them here. And here, this is the top. Let me just zoom out. This is the top of kind of a gradual outcrop here, rock. And there is a large stone right on the top of this highest elevation in the area. That makes me wonder a little. But if you just look around this area, there are some stone ruins and reports of them on a few websites. But this is probably one area that I would check if I was looking for stone ruins around Boston. But this is just south of Brighton, and Newton and Brookline is just to the east. Now, I got a message from Rano65, I think that was who it was from, and he said, have you ever seen this before? And when I saw this, I immediately recognized it. I knew exactly where this came from. This weird thing, where is this? This is in one of the chambers of the Great Pyramid. I can't remember if it's the King's Chamber or the Queen's Chamber, but this is on the wall near one of the air shafts. And I saw this in a pic. I think it came from when they sent the little robot up the air shaft to see what was in there, and they found those sealed doors. Well, this I looked at long and hard on a dark pic from, I can't remember if it's a Queen's Chamber or the King's Chamber, but I saw this on the wall, and I said, what the hell is that? Now, I was going to make a video on this a long time ago, because I just thought this was highly fascinating and weird, and it comes from the Great Pyramid, but I never really wrapped my head around what this is or what it could be. But I find that really weird, and that comes from one of the chambers inside the Great Pyramid, and I recognize this immediately. Now, I've had more than a few questions about structures off the East Coast underwater of the United States, and I don't know if today on Google Earth you can look around underwater. I don't think you can, but I actually made a few videos on this, but frankly I just think they are Google Earth glitches. But they were kind of fun videos to make, and I made this 5 years ago this week. So why don't we take a look at this one real brief. This is called Pyramid off New Jersey Coast. Now I had one question. Why the 5 notches in the Queen's Chamber here? 5 notches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, good question. I don't think there's really any definitive answer for that. But maybe because ancient Rostow, in ancient text, each hour of the night, they're kind of divisions of the night that have their own special meaning. The name associated with the 5th division of the night is Rostow, which is ancient Giza. Now, what does Rostow mean? It means entrance to the corridors or mouth of the passages. So really, this area right behind the Lord of Rostow is the designation of where Rostow is centered in this area. And of course, Anubis is the guardian of Osiris. And where is the tomb of Osiris located? It is located up the receiving pass, past the entrance to the underworld, or Amente. So that is a guess on why there are 5 notches here. The 5th division of the night, the Queen's Chamber, is about the resurrection of the midnight sun. The King's Chamber, the resurrection of the daytime sun. Now, I had a question from somebody in Sevierville, Tennessee. What do you know about an ancient city in our town? I just know a little bit about it, but let's go down here to Sevierville. I believe I have read this is the home, the birthplace of Dolly Parton, and I think there's a couple towns that claim that title, but let's go down here to the highway down here. Not sure what the name of this highway is. I should have looked at that before I started, but I just wanted to do this one really quick. Here we have just a normal setting. We have an ancient mound right here, and then a hotel, looks like the landmark inn, but just the remains of an ancient city. Probably the most sacred structure in that city is all we have left, just the top of it here. And let me just read a little bit about what this was all about. It says the McMahon Indian Mound, the Mississippian substructure, 16 feet high and 240 feet in circumference, built during the Dallas phase, roughly 800 years ago to 500 years ago, was first excavated in 1881 with artifacts being sent to the Smithsonian. Later excavations exposed nearby villages of the woodland Indians dating from 200 AD to the Cherokee who roamed the valley when the pioneers settled in the late 1700s. So we have a wide range of dates, but here all that is left, this mound structure here, just the top of it, right in the middle of a modern neighborhood with really no hint of anything ancient or an ancient city certainly being here ever. At the mound today, and I'm not sure if a lot of people know this is here, or this was the most important feature in an ancient settlement that went back maybe 2,000 years in this area, but this is all pretty much built up, and the river is right down here. But if we go to overhead here, by the river down here, and especially in this area, that doesn't look like there's too much built here. It looks kind of wild. I bet you there is remnants, ancient artifacts in this area. I've had questions on ancient geopolymer concrete. Were certain things in the ancient world made out of artificial concrete? And that is something I really have not looked into, to be honest with you, in depth. I have looked into it a little bit. Was the Great Pyramid made out of concrete? I don't think so. I think it was made out of limestone blocks. I think that's pretty clear. I will say this. I looked into some research on the casing stones that were on the outside of the pyramid, and I am open to the theory that those are artificially made or were artificially made. Whatever I saw, whether I read it or it was a video, but it was a while ago, those casing stones seem to be made of a different sort of a material than natural blocks. The casing stones, to me, when I read this article or I watched this video, I can't remember what it was because it was a long time ago, but the casing stones on the Great Pyramid, were those artificially made? I am open to that possibility because I saw some pretty interesting evidence. I just cannot recall what it was. And then a related question, or questions I have had. If the ancient Egyptians, the dynastic Egyptians, did not build the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, who did? Well, seems to me there was a civilization around a long time ago that we have totally lost track of. The events at the end of the last ice age probably put an end to that civilization. But the culture that built the Great Pyramid, I think they were a highly civilized culture for a lot longer than this current era has been around. They were a lot more knowledgeable. They were in tune with the earth. If they could foresee into the future what we are doing to this planet, they'd be sick. But I think it was a culture that was highly in tune with the earth. They were very spiritual people. They didn't choose to become spiritual. That's just the way they were. And then certain events, I think they saw the end coming. They wanted to leave a monument to eternity that kind of resonated how sophisticated they were, how in tune with above and below they were, how everything was kind of a dual system, but night, day, good, evil, light, darkness, everything had meaning, the skies above, and what went on down here on earth. We're into symbolism. They put it into the Great Pyramid, the ancient statue that we call the Sphinx today. This whole complex at Giza, they left it here saying, look at us. But they left it here on the Giza Plateau. They said, look at us. This is who we were. Figure this out. And if you can, you'll figure out exactly how sophisticated and how great of a culture we actually were and how knowledgeable we were. And a related question that you could fit into Giza also, but other places around the world, such as Sacsayhuaman in Peru. How in the heck were ancient people able to move these stones, lift them into place, when we would need a crane today? Well, I think the simplest answer is this, and sometimes the greatest mysteries have the simplest answers. At the end of the last ice age, something really, really bad happened. It changed the world, and if you've watched Randall Carlson videos and read Graham Hancock, you certainly know that. But I think this great catastrophe at the end of the ice age, I think it changed the gravity of the Earth. Do you know that dinosaurs could not exist today? It'd be impossible. With the gravity and their skeletal and muscular structures, they would not be able to support themselves with the way gravity is today. So maybe the events around 12,000 years ago changed the gravity of the Earth. Before, it was just simply a lot easier for man to move stone. That is a very simple answer, but sometimes the greatest mysteries have the simplest answers. And how did they form these blocks into these positions? Were these heat treated? Well, I don't know. Whatever culture put in these obviously had some kind of knowledge that we don't have or have lost track of today. Now, this is my Ancient America playlist, and I don't have this in any specific order here, but these are some of the topics that I have talked about in this past 6 months, and then about 2.5 years ago, I talked about a lot of Ancient America sites and kind of got my toes wet in the subject, so it was good to do this series twice because I look at things a little bit differently now than I did back then. But here are some of the sites that I have talked about recently and back then. And I want to thank the people for all their pics they sent in and questions about sites in their area. From Wisconsin to Iowa, some effigy mounds I'm going to be talking about. Delaware River, Connecticut, Colorado Springs, places in Canada, Nova Scotia. I'm going to be getting around still to Ancient America, but I just wish I had more time for videos. Time, what's valuable to me? Time. Also sites in California and a really ancient one in Arkansas. I've had a whole bunch of good messages, but I also had one from, let me see here, this was a Denise and a Linda. They sent me in kind of the same kind of question if I could check something out. They're both the same here. One says, Chuck, I enjoy your Ancient America series. I have a couple of artificial mounds in my general area, and I want you to check them out. And that was the same as Linda's message. And all I have to say is those were impressive. But back then I talked about the Vikings landing in Canada 1,000 years ago. But here are some of the videos that I have done. And giants is one topic that comes up all the time. And I have mentioned some rather large skeletons found. And they appear to be over 7 feet tall, which is very large, as tall as the tallest humans today. Are they giants? No, because they're as tall as the tallest humans today. But that is a topic that I find very interesting because we find some very strange reports of really big people, and I'm talking 8-9 feet tall. And that is when you go down a slippery slope. What is actually believable, verifiable? Was this written just to sell newspapers back then? What in every case is probably different as far as the people writing the story. So this is a really hard topic to wrap your head around. Now I just want to play a clip from Jim Vieira's band TED Talk, because Jim Vieira, when I look at different subjects, I look at people who have researched them for many years. And Jim Vieira has looked around the Northeast and different parts of America as far as stone ruins and reports of these giants. So I just want to play you a clip from his TED Talk. And this is a thing I have mentioned, large skeletons, but I have also mentioned that this is a really difficult thing to verify. So I just want to play Jim's TED Talk here, or a part of it, and I will leave a link below.
1000 BC, Ireland, a national treasure. Root cellar in Vermont. So the colonial astronomers who built this knew their stuff, because that's Harvard's Barry Fell right there. 9 14-foot long, 3-ton stones for the roof. And Maver and Dick's researchers who wrote Manitou, they determined that the doorway marks the 18.3 and 28.6 declination angles of the moon, the major and minor standstills. It's eclipse predictor, and it lets the winter solstice sunrise come right through the center, just like Newgrange, 3000 BC, Ireland. That's ancient English. I'm not saying that Europeans built these structures. What I'm saying is that they exist all around the globe, and you find the same ceremonial structures in New England, but somehow they're colonial remnants where we live. So, King's Chamber, New York, massive granite blocks. I visited, there's 150 of these chambers in Putnam County, New York. This is interesting. Somebody who read one of my ancient American articles sent me these pictures. He found this 25 years ago in the woods. He's a stonemason. He said it plagued his mind. And it's arched. It's all dry laid. Beautiful construction. And as a mason, I would imagine I would have to build a false work to create this. It's just a mind-numbing amount of, work behind this. And it just doesn't make any sense. So, gets a little strange here. I ask you to bear with me. I'm trying to, the mound builders had trade routes through New England, and that is known. But I was trying to tie up, I'm saying, are the mound builders to be found in New England? Did they make it here? Did they build any of these structures? Did they, what was going on? There's not much known about the history of New England, for instance. So I started to read through historical texts, and I found some strange things. History of Deerfield. This is eminent historian George Sheldon. One of these skeletons, this is on page 78, monstrous size, head as big as a peck basket with double teeth all around, examined by Stephen Williams, who said the owner must have been nearly 8 feet high. 8-foot skeleton, double rows of teeth. Like, what the hell is that? And I just felt compelled to dive into the historical texts. So I spent countless hours, tens of thousands of pages, and I found similar things. Middleborough, Mass., 7-8, double rows of teeth. Up in Rockingham, Vermont, the jawbone was of such size that a large man could easily slip it over his face, and the teeth, which were all double, were perfect. Double rows of teeth again. Here we go. Martha's Vineyard, 7 foot, an unusual feature, a complete double row of teeth in both the upper and lower jaws. So I went to the Pecumtuck Museum. I said, yeah, here you go. Sheldon talks about an 8-foot skeleton with double rows of teeth. Do we know anything about this? He said, oh, here's his archaeological scrapbook. This is my Da Vinci Code moment. I open it up, and he has giant skeleton reports pasted in there with mound builder stuff, and Sheldon was basically, in his collaging saying that it looks like he believed the mound builders were in New England, and they had race of giants interspersed with them. Very, very strange indeed. 1883 catalog of curiosity and relics at the museum shows that an over 8-foot skeleton was actually on display there. Parts of it, and a giant skeleton from Gill. And I talked to the physical anthropologist who was part of the team who reinterred that for the Native American Repatriation Act. So on display in Deerfield, they had giant skeletons. And it's right at the top, they're over 8 foot, or it says at least 8 foot. So I'm like, I'm trying, I thought I had credibility with all the stuff I was doing. I'm getting into this twilight zone of research, and I'm like, I just have to follow. I'm compelled to report what I find. And I find that there are other researchers who encountered the same thing and have hundreds of reports in their books. Fred Zimmerman, Ross Hamilton, right here, Philip Reif. I'll just read you quickly. Chapter 5 of his book is called Anatomic Anomalies. At least some of the giants who once inhabited the United States differed from modern humans in ways other than their tremendous size. Judging from the number of their remains, they also possess some unique anatomical features. One of these features that keeps cropping up repeatedly in reports of giant skeletons from a variety of geographic areas and time periods. In fact, it seems nearly every giant skull found with its dentition intact includes the same peculiarity, double rows of teeth. So at least I know I'm partially not crazy. So, Abraham Lincoln, the eyes of that extinct species of giant whose bones fill the mounds of America have gazed on Niagara as our eyes do now. Abraham Lincoln, 1948. Washington uncovered giant skeletons in 1754, working for the Virginia militia. There are many historical accounts. Honest Abe. New York Times, hundreds, Scientific American, American Antiquarian, New York Times. This was known at the time and then eventually buried. Right here, Chief Justice McKean, Judge Bryan, and others found two 11'3" skeletons. 9 foot out of one of the burial mounds in Wisconsin. 10'9", Wheeling, Virginia, the sheriff found it. On and on and on. Charles Huntington, this is at the Cattaraugus Museum in New York State. He found, when they unearthed these two skeletons, a 9-foot male and a 7-foot female, took the measurements, the bones crumbled away like many did because they weren't mummified, although some bones survived and went to places like the Smithsonian. So he made this. I talked to his granddaughter, and she said he was driven to do this by what he saw. I should have somebody the picture for scale, but that's 9 feet tall. Not like, Boston Celtics, 6'2", 9 feet. So Warren K. Moorhead, the Dean of American Archaeology, found giant skeletons when he unearthed them all around the country. Tioga Point, Pennsylvania, 68 of them. Over 7 foot tall, many much larger. Many specimens went to the American Investigating Museum and they were stolen. And there's all these reports over and over again. I know, it's pathetic. Skeleton in copper armor, a giant he found in Illinois at Chillicothe. Connecticut, giant skeleton. Warren K. Moorhead, the Dean of American Archaeology. And I found a curious thing. In the secret text of the Freemasons and Rosicrucians, they also talk about this. They have, right here in my newest article, I have pictures of the skulls of almost 10-foot skeletons. The Rosicrucians and the Freemasons, in their secret texts, talked about this and had matter-of-fact reports from like Town Histories in the New York Times, and they use it to connect it to the lost continent of Atlantis, right in the text. So I'll just lay that out there, whatever that means. I know it's a freak show. So the Smithsonian, we're told that it's the height of science, and honestly, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole any further, but there appears to be a lot of misinformation and corruption all around the Smithsonian and what they're doing. Right here in their own reports, 7'6", there's giant skeleton reports in their ethnology reports. Right here, this front skeleton over 7 foot. That's a Smithsonian burial find, Nelson Mound. 8'4", Professor McGee on the left from the Smithsonian. They bought this skeleton, $500 from San Diego, took a tissue sample, and it's down at the warehouse and not to be seen again. Here we go, thighs and skulls sent to the Smithsonian. Smithsonian Institution to determine the age of the skeleton. Yeah, they might determine it. They're not going to tell us. The moral of the story is, I'm going to wrap it up now. There were cultures in ancient America that lived together. Tens of thousands of people in cities. They lived with connection and love and care and respect for all life forms. And right now, we've mastered fear and separation in our society. And we have organizations and institutions keeping the truth from us and just, telling us to go back to sleep. And, personally, I'm pissed, you know what I mean? I'm sick of it. And I've got to talk to thousands of people, and they agree with my sentiment. Enough is enough. Corporations are not people, okay? Corporations do evil stuff all around the globe. We're people. We care. We care about the elderly. We care about children. We care about all life forms. And that's the end of my rant, but I appreciate you listening to it.
So, I thought that was a good clip to end it with. Jim is passionate about his work. He is a researcher, and I appreciate his efforts, and I appreciate his passion. I have passion also. It's bringing you guys ancient history. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all your questions, but I think almost an hour video is good enough. My last Q&A video, I ended it off with some music, and today I'm going to finish it with a song that my friend Bonnie did about 2 years ago. I have a lot of new subs. I've had some questions. Hey, you going to do some videos with Bonnie again? And I talked to her on her break Friday night, and yeah, we are going to plan to do some, but this is a fun video I did with her about 2 years ago. Little Guns N' Roses. I make music videos. I also make history videos. History is what I'm interested in, and you people like listening to my thoughts on it. Music is what I enjoy uploading and things around Vegas. I like to have fun with my YouTube channel. I'm not a super serious person. People who know me know that. But I will get serious when it comes to ancient history, because I think there is a whole bunch of untold stories out there. But I'll end it here with a little bit of music from Hares. Hope you thought this was cool. and you all have a very fun day.